We're coming up on the end of the first quarter for 2026. The stock market is shaky. There is a lot going on at home and abroad that is having an impact on your portfolio. So I'm going to give you 5 rules that you need to consider implementing for your portfolio to make it out alive for the rest of the year. And you absolutely want to pay attention to each one of these. But it's the words that I use that you want to write down and circle, okay? Because there's a way that I'm going to be saying these that you have to pay attention to. So the first one, carefully consider your diversification. The key word here, this is what you want to underline, is carefully consider your diversification. Everybody's been talking about diversification for years. That part is not new. You can get an index fund and diversify across a whole bunch of different stocks. I'm not breaking new ground here by saying that, but what is relatively new, especially for investors who aren't super into the details or you might not have a financial planner. If you don't, I'm just one click away. I can help you build confidence, clarity, and momentum at buildingbread.com/callkev. We'll talk more about that later in the video. But the carefully part is this. One, you need to pay attention to what regions of the world that you are investing in. For decades and decades, the United States had been far and away the absolute best stock market to be in. And it was, I could just buy the S&P 500 and nothing else. You was good. Well, times have changed, not just because of the policies, well, primarily, yeah, because of the policies that the United States has implemented. The dollar had weakened the majority of last year. The tariffs are still in place. We doing stuff overseas that aren't all that great. Last year, places like South Korea were doing great. The Eurozone was pretty good. There are other places worth looking at to make sure that you are truly diversifying and lowering your risk in a good way, but also perhaps, keywords perhaps, making money in the best way possible. Because if you're telling me, hey, there's money to be made in Europe, there's money to be made in Asia, but you're solely focused on the S&P 500 and nothing else, then you may be missing out in 2026. And you absolutely were missing out in 2025. And this wasn't always the case. This was not always the case. But in 2026, it is absolutely worth paying attention to. Now, everybody's portfolio is different. I'm not telling you to make drastic changes and drastic swings from left to right or anything like that, but take a look and see what is out there, and there might be small tweaks worth changing. Also, I have mentioned this before, yes, some AI stocks have done well, especially in the recent past, last 3 to 4 years. But take a look and see what you own, because I mentioned this before, there are stocks like Walmart, some defensive stocks out there that you might want to look at. If the economy does slow down, it might make sense to see how much of your portfolio is positioned for defense. What companies do you own that would do well in a downturn? Are you prepared for that in advance? One example, and I guess I can skip down to this one already, is holding more cash. I did a whole workshop for 2025, and the people who took that workshop, maybe we need to do like a summer session or something like that, they'll tell you in the comments, I talked back then about putting more money in cash in case things were to do a downturn. They announced liberation day and all kind of stuff, and guess what? They was ready, right? But with gas prices going up, with tariffs having already increased prices across the board, with inflation still here, though not as bad as what it was in 2021 and 2022, having more cash gives you the ability to continue investing if things continue to be rocky. But I've been saying that you want to extend it beyond the old recommendation of 3 to 6 months. I'm thinking 12 might make a whole lot more sense. 12 might make a whole lot more sense at this point in time. But back to the portfolio piece, pay attention to the regions that you are investing in. Also pay attention to what industries you are investing in. Most people are you overly allocated, right? Overly invested in technology and not paying attention to what other industries are even out there. What other parts of the stock market are doing well? Most people don't know. We just know, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Broadcom. That's just what we look at, and we don't really pay attention to nothing else. Whereas in reality, there are other stocks that are doing well that we just don't pay attention to because those stocks take so much oxygen out of the room. So pay attention to what else is out there. There are stocks that are green and have been green all year long, but because those companies are so big and they take up all the headlines, and those are notifications that you get, that you aren't truly paying attention. So carefully consider your diversification. Also, you might want to increase your cash too, to just afford more things, but also absorb some of the shocks that may occur and take advantage of any buying opportunities that may come down the line. Now, I've technically covered 2, so I guess this is the third thing, is you need to create rules for your portfolio. I've talked to several people this year. What has worked in 2024, what has worked in 2023 might not work in 2026. And one way around this is creating rules for how you are going to buy and when you are going to sell certain stocks. Because for many, it's, well, I don't know if I should sell this, I don't know if I should buy because, you know, I have some emotional attachment to it and this is happening overseas. Here's the thing, you have to be consistent. Now, most of y'all have been subscribing here, and if you haven't, this is your chance to do so, right? But you have to have rules of, here's how much I'm investing in these stocks. I have a 5% rule, I don't go over 5%. Okay, of any individual stock, I put as much as I want in the index funds. That's again, these are my rules, okay? You have your own rules. But this protects me from investing too much in something that don't work out. Now, if that thing does work out and it does well, I take my gains off the table, right? If I invest in something and it shoots up and now it makes up 10% of my portfolio, great. I'm bringing it back down to 5, take my gains off the table, and I'm either reallocating them, putting in other stocks that I like, or taking that money and doing something with it, right? That keeps the cycle going. But I have rules for those things, and that takes my emotions out of it, because greed is a thing, right? Shame is a thing. I don't want to admit losing, so I'm holding on to it, consistently losing money. And the problem with that is, especially now, the market is choppy, you may think, and I saw this morning, I'm recording this on Monday, that the market, the futures market, was up 1,000 points. Yeah, I think it was due to something that's happening in Iran. We'll see by the time the video comes out if that's going to be the case. I don't know, right? The problem is, though, you could think, well, maybe things are going to change. Maybe you're like hoping something is going to happen and that your investment is going to improve. You don't have to do that if you have rules, because the truth is, if you lose 20%, you need 25 to break even. Now you're really hoping, trying to dig yourself up out of something. Whereas for me, I know come June, if I own a stock that is underperforming the S&P 500 and it's been doing so consistently for 6 months, if it's been doing so consistently for a year, you gone. And I'm replacing it with something that has beaten the S&P 500 for that exact same time frame. End of story. I don't care. That's it. You gone. Did you make me money or not? These are inanimate objects, and the purpose is, are you making me money? That is the rule. So you sit down and create whatever rule that you want to make, and you need to sit down and follow that rule. End of story. All right, write that rule down. Now, if you need somebody to hold you to those rules, I will do that. All right, we can have a call and sit face to face. If you need me to stare you in the face, make sure you follow that rule, then we can. But most importantly, I am here to be an accountability partner and to help you take a look at your portfolio as well as your entire situation. Again, I'm here to help you create confidence, clarity, and momentum in this economy. And this economy is wild. So go to buildingbread.com/callkev and you can schedule a 100% free call to understand what is going on. The next rule is not to spread yourself out too thin in your portfolio. It looks like my backlight, I think, ran out. But in either case, don't spread yourself out too thin. What happens a lot of times is, you know, I got 10 stocks and I keep finding what I think are great deals. And now I have 15. Now I've got 20. Now I've got 25. And if I've got, let's say, $10,000 or what have you, I keep spreading myself out. And instead of having, again, I'm throwing out numbers here, $2,500 in each stock, and maybe I'm getting a sizable profit here. Now I've got like $100 in each stock. Now I've got $500 in each stock. Now I've got $150 in each stock. I'm getting tiny little profits, and some stocks are doing well and some stocks aren't. That makes things way more difficult on you. One, it's hard to do the diversification thing that I mentioned earlier. How do I know what industries I'm in if I have 30 different individual stocks? How do I know what region all of these things are in? How am I researching each of these stocks in the way that I should to know if I'm doing the right thing based on what is happening in the economy right now? Not the easiest thing. Now, depending on who you ask, maybe there is well, the textbook says that 30-ish is the right answer if you're doing individual stocks. However, in real life, I would argue that you should have much less paired, keyword, paired with an index fund. So if you have an index fund and you have some individual stocks, this is just me, I would prefer like 12 or less. But that's just me. I would need to look at your portfolio and see what you're investing in, all type of stuff, because there's a lot, and I mean a lot more detail that goes into what works for you, what you're trying to do, and all that type of stuff. But again, that's just my opinion, not my advice in that arena. But the main thing is you do not want to spread yourself out too thin, especially now, because everything is changing so fast for so many different factors. Again, you've got international conflict, you've got international trade, you've got domestic law, and what is currently changing with things like Netflix and Paramount and whatever the heck they are doing today, right? Then you've got midterms happening later this year and how that may play out. So that's what, 4 things I've mentioned. Each one of those things, and the Fed, that's 5. Each one of those things all shifting the market based on the day. And while these aren't happening all in the same week, obviously, those are 5 different things that can happen all in a business week, all shifting the market wildly. And you got 30 different stocks all responding differently in one portfolio, all by yourself. Now, is it possible for some people? I'm sure it is, but it just, you see how hard that is, when in reality, you might want to pare that back, and with a smaller portfolio, you can realize bigger gains and also understand what you actually own and know this is in this industry. If this happens, these companies are bound to do better because they're more defensive, so on and so forth. So that is a much better approach. And then lastly, I would argue that you want to build a plan, not for the market, but for your mind, because we all have these cognitive biases, right? When we just lean towards a certain thing. Sometimes we're overconfident. What is the thing that's going to stop you from being overconfident on certain stocks and certain things? So I mentioned having a rule for your portfolio and how you invest, right? If it doesn't beat the S&P 500, cut it, whatever. That was my rule. But what is your rule for your mind? You have one for the market. What is your rule for your mind that's going to keep you in the places and the mindset that you should? Is it cutting off your notifications during the business day or during the trading day? Is it that? Is it not looking at your 401k every single day because you know that is something that can stress you out, which you should be doing anyway? What are the rules that you're going to have in place to make sure that you're not overreacting or being overconfident in something that is going to trick you or force you into a decision that you probably shouldn't be making without counsel? Is it talking to a financial planner before you make any rash decisions? Because that's a thing too. It might be worth like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. What do you think before you decide to do? Just to double check. It might be worth just a double check before doing something and you end up getting a crazy tax bill or something of that nature. Because those things are completely important. There are far too many people who think they may know everything. I'm not saying I do, but doing that, rushing into something, went super heavy into crypto and invested way over the amount that they should, and now they're struggling. As opposed to saying, hey, I like crypto, I think it makes sense, but let's pare this down. You want it, you can have it, but let's also invest in these things to make sure you are also safe at the same time. So build a plan, not just for the market, but build one for your mind. What is protecting you and your portfolio at the same time? Those are the things that you should be paying attention to and build in now for the rest of 2026. If you want to know what stocks to consider adding to your portfolio and what makes sense right now, you want to check out these videos right here.